You sit down at your desk and open up an important project. Then, without making a conscious choice, you grab your phone. In a fraction of a second, 30 minutes vanish into a blur of short-form videos. Compare that to those rare, quiet stretches where you lock onto a complex problem and the hours just melt away. Your brain zeroes in on the task effortlessly, completely absorbed in the work. It is easy to blame yourself for the difference between those two states, or to think you lack discipline. But the urge to pull away from hard work and stare at a screen is a biological mechanism. It is a chemical equation that tech platforms actively exploit, and you can manually reset it. Over the next few minutes, we are going to walk through a precise, step-by-step, 4-week dopamine re-sensitization protocol. It is designed to strip away digital cravings and train your brain to actually enjoy difficult tasks. Your attention span operates on predictable chemical rules. By the end of this video, you will have the exact formula needed to solve it. Step 1 is figuring out exactly what is happening inside your brain right now. To fix the problem, we first have to evaluate your current level of daily stimulation. This is a 3D model of your brain's reward environment, visualized as a crowded restaurant. Your brain operates on 2 different frequencies of a molecule called dopamine. The first is tonic dopamine. Think of this like the constant background chatter in the room. It is your continuous baseline level of motivation. Then there is phasic dopamine. These are the sharp, temporary spikes of reward you experience when something good happens. It is like hearing your name called clearly over all that background noise. When you flood your system with high-intensity digital stimulation, that background noise gets louder and louder. To protect itself, your brain shrinks its dopamine receptors. The noise becomes so deafening that normal, healthy rewards, like finishing a chapter in a book or completing a task, simply do not register anymore. That means your inability to focus is not a character flaw, and the work itself hasn't suddenly become boring. Your brain's baseline dopamine noise has just become entirely too loud. Step 2 is identifying the single biggest source of that noise. Write down the one habit in your life that requires the least amount of effort but delivers the highest amount of stimulation. For the next 4 weeks, we are going to eliminate it completely. We use a 4-week timeline because it is the biological minimum required for your dopamine receptors to upregulate. They need exactly that long to regrow and become sensitive to normal stimulation again. This chart plots your likely mental state over the next month. Notice the massive spike right here at the beginning. Days 1 through 7 are going to be very uncomfortable. You will feel restless, irritable, and anxious as that cheap stimulation is removed. When that discomfort hits, do not interpret it as a sign of failure or weak willpower. That agitation is the physical sensation of your brain's circuitry actively repairing itself. Surviving that first week is simply the required biological toll.
You endure it so you can resensitize your brain to the everyday rewards waiting on the other side. Survival in that first week requires a tactical shift. Willpower is a finite resource, and you are putting it up against apps engineered by addiction scientists. Relying on effort alone guarantees failure. Step 3 is removing willpower from the equation. You need strict environmental barriers to physically prevent access to your target distraction. You can build chronological barriers, like setting an app blocker to lock your social media from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Or you can use geographical barriers, like putting your phone inside a physical lockbox in another room while you work. You can also rely on categorical barriers. This involves changing the nature of the device itself, setting your phone screen to grayscale, or actively disabling algorithmic feeds in your browser. Successful dopamine rewiring is rarely about being stronger than your phone. It is about engineering an environment where you never have to make a choice in the first place. This diagram shows the core mechanism governing your motivation. Your brain constantly works to maintain a perfect balance between pleasure and pain. When you load the system with unearned, cheap pleasure, like a scrolling binge, your brain reacts. To restore equilibrium, it automatically adds weight to the pain side, which you feel as anxiety, low energy, or restlessness. Step 4 is reversing that equation. When you tackle a difficult task first, you are dropping a heavy weight onto the pain side. The brain responds by naturally elevating the pleasure side afterward. You build intrinsic motivation by earning the dopamine rather than borrowing it. To help tip those scales, there is one final requirement for this protocol. Every day, you need to schedule exactly 15 minutes of zero stimulation boredom. True boredom means absolutely no inputs, no phone, no podcasts, no music. When you sit quietly, your brain shifts into what neuroscientists call the default mode network. This is the biological birthplace of deep creativity, and it only activates when you stop giving your brain external things to process. By intentionally seeking out friction and sitting with silence, you change your relationship with discomfort. It stops being an obstacle and becomes the fuel that drives your focus. Here is your complete 4-week master plan. Target your primary habit. Build strict environmental barriers. Prioritize hard work before cheap rewards, and practice 15 minutes of daily boredom. Fast forward to the end of week 4. That constant itch to grab your phone will fade. Instead of forcing yourself to sit down and grind through a task, engaging with complex, deep work will feel naturally compelling. Your task right now is simple. Grab a piece of paper, write down the one target habit you are going to eliminate, and physically move your device out of the room. We live in an environment designed to fracture your focus. Taking total control over your attention is the ultimate competitive advantage, and that advantage begins the second this video ends.